IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we have a very puzzling topic with us. This is something that many people find extremely difficult to do. But I think it's one of those things that when you get into a habit and you start practicing, you can actually become very good and fast at it. We have Chinmay Prabhu, a speed cuber with us. So we all know about Rubik's Cubes and how complicated they are. This is about doing them extremely fast. Chinmay, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Same here. Chinmay, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. How did you get into speed cubing and what speed cubing is as well?
Okay, so basically, until I was in my 11th grade, I had no clue about speed cubing at all. Okay, and while I was in my junior college, I had a friend who could solve a Rubik's Cube. And it was very fascinating that he's the only person in the room who can solve a Rubik's Cube. So I wanted to be a bit like him. I wanted to know how to solve it, how to figure that out. So I bought a cube from marketplace and started practicing. But eventually, when I was trying to solve it at first, I was not able to crack it. I had to try 10 thousands of time, because even if say you go to step one, two, three, four, like it's stepwise that you go. Supposingly you screw it up at one level also, it is start over from the beginning. So starting over was the most challenging part, like learning how to solve it at the very first moment. Then slowly and steadily, I learned how to solve it, and I could solve it in 7 to 8 minutes. Now came the challenging part. My friend could solve it within a minute, and now 7 8 minutes felt like he could easily challenge me, solve 5 6 puzzles more than me, and I would just not be able to solve one. So there I heard about speed cubing. There are these different Rubik's cubes that are available which have good corner cutting. So because of what the movement of those cubes is very smooth. So I purchased a cube from an online platform, and then I started practicing it every single day, like dedicatedly 2 hours a day. I've been practicing to get better and better every day. And eventually there came a day when my speed goes to around 30 32 seconds, and that is the time when I thought that okay, now I've entered the speed cubing game.
Wow, what was the feeling when you first ever did the whole Rubik Cube by yourself?
Oh, to be very honest, that 7 8 a minute of time, I still think that is the most precious time of my life, when I was like, it was such a beautiful feeling that oh my god, I can solve a Rubik's cube. Like you scramble it and I will solve it from any position. Now when I'm doing it over and over again, it doesn't feel that challenging. It is just like you're challenging towards getting better, you're challenging yourself to push the limits to get faster. But at that time, just solving the puzzle was just pure happiness.
How did the Rubik's Cube become such a popular puzzle? Like it became like I was telling you before we started the podcast that my parents' time they used to use the Rubik's Cube, and he was in college. My dad used to play around with the Rubik's Cube, etc. How did the Rubik's
Yeah.
Cube become such a popular puzzle?
Basically, I've heard about the Rubik's Cube that it was not meant to be a toy or such. It was used by Mr. Arno Rubik. He made that Rubik's Cube, and he used to teach three-dimensional mathematics to his students. So to teach the concept of three dimension, he made the cube. And it has been heard over the internet that it took him 1 month to solve his first ever Rubik's Cube. And and
Okay,
now
so
when
it took him one
I
month.
believe, yeah, and now he must be so surprised when kids these days are doing it that quick. 5 6 seconds they are doing, and they're just amazing now.
But what is the thing? So earlier on, was it a test of intelligence? Has that changed? Like, what is the crux or what is the key about the Rubik's Cube?
Uh, Earlier, if I believe you could solve a Rubik's cube, people would just
Hmm,
consider, oh my god, you're a genius. Like you can solve
hmm,
a Rubik's cube. That is something that not everybody can do. But
correct.
now, to be honest, when everyone has internet, everyone knows how to do it. You're not a genius. So the only way you can show that you're better than others is being fast at it. Because internet is one place where you can find solution to anything and everything.
Correct.
And that's too a solution for Rubik's cube. There are multiple methods in which you can learn, and you can take it at your pace. If you don't remember something, you can just check it on the internet. Back then, it must have been so difficult. to remember everything, to remember those. It is called as an algorithm. Like, for example, from case A to case B, when I'm going, it's an algorithm that I follow. It is set of moves that I'm following. Now, when I don't remember something, I can just go back, check it on the internet. But back then, it must have been test of intelligence only, that people had to remember everything and they had no option to check something on the internet or see something over and over again. You just had to memorize it and keep going.
Because I remember way before the internet and way before YouTube, etc. Every time we had a Rubik's cube, it was always about trying to figure out how now this one square on this color, how do I move that one out? And
Yeah.
then I had gone to London. I remember this, and I had been
Mhm.
gifted this very pretty looking Rubik's cube, and someone had jumbled it up, and I wanted it
Hmm.
back in that original place. So I googled for the first time how do you solve a Rubik's cube, and I
Hmm.
realized that there were actual steps which I'd never really thought about before, that there was actually, like you said, an algorithm that you have to follow to get it
Yeah.
back in
Yeah.
place. And even doing that, that is hard. It took me a few days to figure that out and do it myself. So these algorithms are things that you've memorized and then you've got your hands accustomed to it. How did the flow happen?
That is correct. That is correct, actually. When I learned it on the internet at first, there were just algorithms that I was following and some basic logics. For example, when you start with the Rubik's Cube, you make a cross at first. Okay. So to make that cross, there is no such algorithm. That you have to understand on how the Rubik's Cube works, how the turning is. But supposedly there is one case at the end and you have to solve it. There is one particular algorithm. So it is logic plus memorization. You will have to memorize certain things, and there are places where you have to use your logic to understand how can you fit a particular piece into a particular place. So it's a
Okay.
combination of both.
So it is memorizing those algorithms, and you've stuck to the same algorithm steps that you did when you first started, or then you realized there's something
uh,
better and you evolved.
there's always something better. So there
Hmm.
are multiple methods. Like there is one called beginner's method, then there is called F12 that you do, then you proceed with OLL, PLL. So like orienting the last layer and then the permutations for the last layer. So what happens is, if you try going like solving with the first basic algorithm, okay, it will take you longer period of time. If you go to the advanced level, it will take you shorter, but the number of algorithms to be memorized are more. For example, if the beginner's way, if you want to solve it, it's okay even if you know 5 algorithms. That is enough for you. But the advanced way, you will have to learn 20, 25, 30. You have to memorize and then keep practicing to understand that, okay, this is the particular case and this is the algorithm that I know for it, and then implement it as quick as possible.
Interesting. So it is actually, if this is a, so what was the algorithms be based on? Is it like a particular pattern that you notice in the cube
Yes,
that
yes.
changes it? Okay.
Yes, we call
So,
it the case, like what case it is, and it's
hmm,
just a pattern. Supposingly, you want to turn one cube piece at by say 90 degrees, and you want to shift it also to another position. So there will be a pattern for it. Like suppose this is the case, no matter what, to shift it, there is only one algorithm, and that you keep following.
so now once you learn these algorithms, so that is your test of memory, I'm guessing, and
Hmm.
recall.
Hmm.
Then what are the other challenges that you had to work on to become faster and faster?
See, to be very honest, the best thing is first learning those better methods, those advanced ones. Second is practicing a lot. Like for instance, if I don't practice at this moment also, if I don't practice for say a week straight, I will get slower.
Hmm.
There is a constant need of practice when it comes to speed cubing, and speed cubing is always like race against the time. So you can't afford to lose that milliseconds also. I remember I was in up for one of those competitions in Goa. Okay,
Hmm.
and I met a friend of mine from Mumbai only, and he defeated me by some 0.018 seconds. So that is how important the timing is. You have to be
Interesting. So
really, really good.
so that precise it becomes, and that's where the margins are now, 0.001.
Yes, yes.
And but like, what are the things that you, so do you actually do any exercises for your fingers? Do you do any exercises for your eyes? Like, because those are the, I'm guessing, the feedback loops that are there that you'll need to
Yeah,
probably improve on, right?
no, right. But there's no such exercise as such. But it's just that now when I look at the puzzle, I know where to look at and what piece to find at first. I will,
Hmm.
like, instead of just looking at one piece, I'll just try to remember, okay, this is the position of the first piece, the second, and the third. So it
Hmm.
is that fast. It will save me some time. Suppose I look at the first piece, I give one algorithm. Then I search for the second piece, then an algorithm. And then it would like take a lot more time compared to
Hmm.
just observing it once and giving it a go.
Hmm.
So what I
But
have to improve
has it
on,
become so simple, like like part of your nature that you could probably be like watching TV and doing this almost
yeah,
subconsciously, or is it still taking focus every single day?
it does take focus. Like for
Hmm.
instance, if I'm
Like while
totally
talking to
into
me, you'd be
something,
able to do cut like that,
yeah, yeah,
or you
yes.
would without looking
So
down, or like you still
oh
having a
no, no, no.
conversation.
I will have to look at the puzzle to see where those puzzles are, like the pieces
Hmm.
are. And
Hmm.
while talking to you, I will be focused on your conversation as to what we
Hmm.
are talking about. But then subconsciously, I would be like, oh, this is the algorithm that fits and it will bring the piece to a particular location. So I don't have to
Hmm.
think anymore about it. I know what is it going to be, but I have to look at it only to understand that, okay, this is the algorithm that I'm going to follow.
Very interesting. And before you were talking about making speed cubing a sport, right? Right now you're saying that the Indian government does not acknowledge it as a sport. What is it that it needs to happen for it to become a sport and being taken at that level?
See, the best way you can acknowledge it as sport is when government gives you a recognition. Okay, like it's from the government. The government will give you recognition when it is something that is crazy, that is out of the box, and only then it will be highlighted to them that there are so many speed cubers out there who want speed cubing to be recognized as a sport. Because now also, to be very honest, when you look at somebody solving a Rubik's cube, you half the people would think he's just fidgeting around with a toy.
Hmm.
So it's not that case. Probably he's just too passionate about it. Probably he wants that sport to be taken ahead. And so I had a very different idea. Okay, I thought I just called up one of those authorities in the Indian government. Okay, who works with one of those award teams. And I'm like, if you all give awards at such conditions, why doesn't it go for speed cubing? He said, no, speed cubing is not a sport. I'm like, what is sport? He's like, no, sports is everything other. You call it chess, you say any random thing, say cricket, say football, all those count as sport. But then I was like, wait, if chess is a sport, technically it's a mind game, and Rubik's Cube falls in a similar category. Why not this? So he did not really have an answer for it. He said, when something nice and big will be highlighted, we will come back to you. And that is when I thought, what if I start mixing Rubik's Cube with existing sports that are out there just for that attention for it. So at that time, I heard that there was swimming going on and all this that is getting highlighted on television. I'm like, everything is getting highlighted, but not this. So I thought to myself how I could like do something crazy out of the box, and I
Hmm.
had the thought of getting into Guinness World Records.
Okay.
And I thought, how about I mix swimming, that is considered as a sport, and I mix speed cubing along with it. Okay.
Hmm.
And I will solve most number of Pyraminx puzzles. Now, Pyraminx is like a variant of Rubik's Cube. It is just triangular in shape. So I thought, why not? I mix them both. I'll sit underwater holding my breath and solve multiple of those.
Hmm.
And I got a heads up from Guinness World Records that if you want to set it as a record, you need to solve 4 puzzles.
Hmm.
So I straight away started approaching all the sports clubs around me to let me practice. They're like, no, you can't take a toy to the pool. And I'm like, this is where it was. This was the entire goal. So then one day I got a permission from one of the places, and they're like,
Hmm.
we'll let you perform, but at the cleaning time, like when there is nobody at the pool, so members don't raise a complaint. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, this works. So I used to go every day to my college. From my college, I used to leave like 2 lectures early just to reach in that place to practice. I practiced for nearly 5 months, and instead of 4, I ended up solving 9 puzzles underwater, holding my breath for
9.
one
Wow.
while holding my breath for 1 minute 48 seconds.
Hmm.
And then the media highlighted it. And whenever the media highlighted, with every person who contacted me, I was like, please mention that speed cubing is a sport. So that is what the thought was behind setting Guinness World Records also. That everywhere it should be highlighted. Maybe in the newspapers, maybe in the television. And I was so proud when on the television the anchor started saying that in the sport of speed cubing there is a new world record that is set. And I'm like, okay, now we are getting somewhere.
Wow,
So
good job. Yeah, amazing. And
so
so what is the funda of the pyramid? So how are they different from the cubes?
so basically this is a pyramid.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, it's
Right.
basically a Rubik's cube has six sides. This has four,
Hmm.
and the algorithms are a bit different. Now, what happens is when you learn how to solve Rubik's cube, the grip you use is for a cube shape. Okay,
Hmm.
and you can't hold this cube in that way. This grip is different. So
Right.
back when I learned how to solve Rubik's cube, I saw on the internet that there are multiple videos that are available, say for pyramids, for two by two cubes and megaminx and multiple puzzles.
Hmm.
So I thought, why not try everything? Now I have over 80 different puzzles, and I thought, okay, pyramids is one that is my favorite. Then I started practicing more into pyramids, and now I have very used to that grip. So whenever it comes to solving Rubik's cube, I think I solve pyramids better than Rubik's cube only because I'm very much used to that holding of grip for pyramids now.
Interesting. And why didn't you do the same thing for the Rubik cube underwater?
Technically, this was in 2018, and by 2015 when I started, I think by 2016, from 2016 onwards, for all the competitions that I used to go, I used to do only pyramids. Again, one
Ah,
more reason, when you think about solving cubes also, okay, solving puzzles, there is one thing that comes to your mind is Rubik's cube, but there is a world beyond that in speed cubing. There is megaminx, there is pyraminx, there is 2 by 2, there is 7 by 7, like multiple different puzzles. Now when you go to a competition, these competitions happen for all the puzzles and not just the Rubik's cube. So I have to prove it that it is a sport, the speed cubing, and it is not just Rubik's cube. It is multiple different puzzles out there. It's an entire different world out there.
so interesting. So the sport of speed cubing has pyramids. It has the normal,
The
what is it, three
megaminx,
by
the Rubik
three?
cube.
The Rubik
Yes,
cube, which is 3 by 3. Then you have what,
yes,
7 by 7?
yes.
7 by 7.
So,
Wow.
so for a Rubik's cube, it's called a 3 by 3. Okay,
Correct.
since it has 9 tiles on the front, every
Hmm.
face will have 9 tiles. So 7 by 7 will have 49 tiles on every side.
Wow.
So
What?
I have all those
What?
puzzles out there.
Huh. How long does it take to do that?
Oh, for me it takes ages, but the people
Hmm.
who are used to it and have chosen that they want to excel in 7 by 7, they solve it
Hmm.
in just 4 5 minutes out there.
Wow. And the world record for the fastest Rubik cube is
It's around 3 seconds now.
3 seconds. Third.
3 seconds. Yes.
Wow, that's insane. So that means these world records will get harder and harder to break, almost close to slowly impossible to break. But the thing is that the different challenges that are there in speed cubing itself, right? Like for example,
Hmm.
like you did underwater. What are the other records that you have worked on?
Sure. So basically, once I finished underwater, again I had a thought of solving maybe two Rubik's cubes simultaneously underwater. But then
Hmm.
my parents were like, "Chinmay, you've already done it underwater. Even the people need to be entertained a little. They will
Hmm.
only come to watch you over and over again if you provide some entertainment. Always, if you go and sit underwater, it's just a daily routine for you. They are not going to be surprised. That element of surprise needs to be there. So I thought, okay, since underwater is done, let's just shift the angle and bring it on land now. Now
Hmm.
again, solving on land is something that we already do in Rubik's cube competition. So
Correct.
I thought maybe I could use cycling this time.
Hmm.
Such a common thing, cycling. You'll see cyclists everywhere around us. So I thought, okay, let's mix this up. Maybe the media will cover it once again, saying that that with cycling, a sport like cycling, another sport is getting merged.
Hmm.
So I approached Guinness World Records that while riding a bicycle, I won't touch my feet to the ground, and I'll solve multiple of those. And
Hmm.
the Guinness World Records provided me with a target of 111 Pyraminx puzzles to be solved. So
111.
yes,
Wow.
and on the day of attempt when I solved it, I ended up solving 176, and believe me, I could have gone way higher. On the 177th cube slipped out of my hand because my palms were all sweaty by then. The puzzle slipped and the attempt had to be stopped. Otherwise, I
My
was
God.
in no mood for stopping it that day.
Wow. So you had 176 jumbled up cubes, or people kept jumbling it and giving it back?
Yeah. So what happened was I had 5 cubes on the table. Okay. Now starting point of the table, say it was section A, and the end point of the table was section B, and the scrambler was set like you're sitting between A and B. Okay. So the way it would go is I would go from section B, taking a cube, coming all the way around to section A, passing the cube back to the table, moving ahead, picking that second cube that is already ready and scrambled, going for another round, placing it back on section A, picking another cube from section B. So it would just go in a loop. It's going just over and over again. So I use
Wow.
5, 6 different puzzles for it and not 176 different
And
puzzles.
that would have been a Guinness Book of World Record in itself. So this was so how long did the entire process take?
For solving 176 while riding a bicycle, it
Hmm.
took me 1 hour and 7 minutes.
1 hour, 7 minutes. Wow.
Yes.
How does it feel to get one of these Guinness Book of World Records? What is the
It
Yeah, what was the
feels
feeling like?
amazing. Yeah, it feels
Hmm.
totally amazing. And it's not because, I hold records or something, but that process when when you get the email saying that the record is approved or not, because how it
Hmm.
happens is it's a long process. You apply to Guinness World Records, they check your application, it takes them 3 months. They'll get back to you saying these are the guidelines and if you can proceed or not. Then once you attempt, it takes them another 3 months to tell whether it is a record or have they rejected it. And they do reject records if even one minor guideline is not followed. So uh, one day I get an email saying that the record is approved, and I was like, "Oh, this is the very first time I had my Guinness World Record." And then every single day I'm just waiting that certificate to arrive home. And the day when it came, the first thing I saw in the certificate, I swear to God, when I opened it, it was India on the certificate, and I'm like, "Okay, now I feel happy that it's a world record set on India's name." Maybe now we are
Amazing.
reaching towards the goal of making this sport.
But it's not recognized internationally also as a sport.
It is recognized as a sport outside. Like there are
Hmm.
multiple countries which dedicatedly have speed cubing competitions. I'm not saying we don't have competitions, we do, but the competitions could be on a much larger scale here. Like there are many people who know how to solve it, but have no clue that this is a sport. Maybe they could take up their
Hmm.
career into it. It's amazing to
So,
start
so
anywhere.
this is career. So it's not just like a hobby that you're saying. You can build a career out of this.
Yes,
As in,
yes.
what are the ways in which you can get your income streams?
Like, sure. Like, for example, if you know how to solve a Rubik's Cube, you can go and start teaching people how to solve one. If you're
Hmm.
good at it, start training the kids. And believe me, the parents these days have become so competitive about their children. They want
Hmm.
their children to excel at everything. So there you have it. That okay, if you pitch them the idea of you teaching them Rubik's cube, they're already interested. They're like, oh, my child would be portrayed as some genius, and they're already in for the idea. And the amazing part is even the kids love it. It's not like you're forcing it onto them; they're enjoying that process. So one way could be by teaching.
Hmm.
Second way would be we also know how to make Rubik's cube mosaics. Okay, so a mosaic process is basically imagine a picture. Okay, now when you zoom into it with your phone, you see those tiny, tiny, tiny squares, the pixels. Each tiny block, the pixel, can be used as one tile of a Rubik's cube. Okay, now when there are thousands of Rubik's cubes, say if there are 1,000 Rubik's cube, I have 9,000 tiles in front of me. I could generate an image on the internet into those six basic colors that are available on the Rubik's Cube. You need not paint
Hmm.
anything. Those white, yellow, orange, red, green, blue, those six colors. You
Hmm.
can convert it, you can cut it out into blocks, tiny, tiny blocks, and just start replicating on each Rubik's Cube, turn by turn. It ends up in a beautiful mosaic. When you look at it from a distance, it looks as it is a picture. When you go close, it's entire different thing. It's all Rubik's cubes. So recently, I
Wow.
actually took a commercial project for this. I ended up making India's biggest Rubik's Cube mosaic of Sai Baba in Shirdi, and this is like a permanent installation out there. And this is also in India Book of Records. So
Hmm.
the Rubik's Cube mosaic was made using 4,212 Rubik's Cubes.
Wow.
So it's a 10 feet by 15 feet. So again, mosaic is a big industry to get into because people are always looking out how to creatively advertise things
Hmm.
where you have
So,
all those installations, all those graffiti paintings and everything. Mosaic is a big thing.
so you would have solved each of those 4,000 cubes yourself? You had a team
Yes.
that would do this? How would
No,
it work?
basically, I had a friend of mine who would help me in sticking those puzzles because since it's a permanent installations, wanted somebody to help me stick it out. But for
Hmm.
every puzzle that was being turned, I did it by myself.
Amazing. So you had to know, how do I get this particular dot on this particular side with these colors?
Yes,
Yeah. So those are
yes,
actually practicing of your algorithms in action.
right, right.
Hmm.
And you need not solve six sides for it. It is just
Hmm.
one particular side
What?
because that is one
Correct.
phase that people are going to see.
Hmm. Amazing.
So
I'd never thought about mosaics with Rubik's cubes. Wow.
So not only like permanent, there are multiple places where you can do it on a temporary basis. Imagine you have say 1,000 Rubik's cube, and not even the big cubes. There are mini cubes also available, which won't take up a lot of space in your home. If you have 1,000 mini cubes, you do a temporary installation, earn some
Hmm.
money, remove it. Then for the next day, whatever installation you want to do it, again make a new mosaic, and you can put it up at the place where you want it. So the sources of earning through Rubik's Cube are infinite. You just have to think in the direction of whether you want to pursue it in teaching, whether you want a career in mosaics, or what exactly.
So, and how would you suggest parents, or even people who are in college or school, pick
Mhm.
up this as a sport, pick up this as a practice? How should this be encouraged? Like, what is the best way of doing this?
For me, I would say that whenever you're telling somebody that it's a sport, don't pressurize them into anything, not even solving the Rubik cube. Let them
Hmm.
see, just provide them with the Rubik's cube. You have say there is a kid in the home, provide him with one Rubik's cube. See if that thing interests him. Okay, if the kid is not interested, and say for example, I have so many kids that I know who are not interested in the Rubik's cube, and the
Hmm.
parents really want them to learn, really want them to earn those trophies, that youngest cuber in the competition, and this and that. But the kids are just being pressurized. So then then it does not feel that good. Then you don't even want to call it a sport at that point. It is just pressurizing some kid. So
Forcing somebody, yeah.
it's just forcing somebody out there. Even if they win the youngest participant trophy, it is just the victory for the parents, not the kid. So let them take it lightly. Whenever you have a friend or somebody, maybe try showing it to them how this Rubik's cube is. Maybe you show them what records you've done, or maybe solve it a couple of times in front of them, and see if they
Hmm.
ask you if maybe you can teach me how to solve the Rubik's cube, or how is the process. If they ask you such questions, guide them into it. Otherwise, never bother. Like
Because that's
then
the
it
thing,
just
right? Because it can be very frustrating for people saying, "Oh, I got this side," and then suddenly it's all gone. Right? That
yeah, yeah,
frustration sets in for people when they're doing it, and then many people let go of it at that point of time.
yeah, true, very true. I mean, I don't know how this miracle has happened, but ever
Hmm.
since I got into speed cubing, I've turned very patient now. Earlier, I used to get I used to get annoyed by every single thing that was happening around me. But when
Hmm.
I was learning how to solve it and the amount of times I failed, I think that has just taught me some patience to how to deal with things in life. So whenever things are
So,
not going my way, I know that okay, it's okay. Maybe some other day, it's not our day, it's okay.
so how do you deal with these frustrations? Do you like just like put the Rubik's cube aside, saying then "Aaj mera day nahi hai"? Like, how do you actually deal with these?
Um, Whenever I am in a bad mood or something, I do not touch the Rubik's cube because I don't want
Hmm.
to mess only with anything around speed cubing. It's just the negative impact that you have on everything that you're doing.
Correct.
Talking about frustration, I'll tell you the level of frustration my mom had when I learned how to solve a Rubik's cube. Okay, so when you move a Rubik's cube, no, it has that one clicking sound. When you're turning something, it has that sound to it. Okay,
Correct.
and
Hmm.
This is like I have to prepare for my 12th standard board exams, and along with the textbooks that I'm sitting, I have a Rubik's cube in my hands, and I'm just fidgeting around, click 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 click. That sound is going on. My mom has smashed the Rubik's cube on the wall, saying, "Chinmay, please stop." More than me, my
Frustrating.
parents
Ha,
have been
yeah, you're right. Cut, 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 cut. So all the parents have to suffer.
yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
she's like, Chinna, please let me at least, if you don't want to study, go in a different room. Do not sit near me with that sound going all day long. So
What do
I
these
I think I
Rubik Cube competitions sound like? They must be going full cut, 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 cut
yes, yes,
in
hundred
these
percent
in these halls. Huh.
yes. So whenever you go to a place where you're having a Rubik's cube competitions, firstly, you'll see so many different types of cubes, so many different, and everyone is discussing on which is better. There are so many brands into it, and when the competition is going on, that clicking sound make that into 10, into 20. It's all that, and especially when the competition is being arranged in a center of in a mall, it's just unbearable sometimes. It just goes too loud because everyone is just clicking.
Clicking, clicking. And what was your first competition experience like? Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah. So this friend of mine that I told you about, who could solve a Rubik's cube. Once I knew how to solve it, and I used to take, say, that time, say 3 or 4 minutes. He's like, Chalmai, why don't we go to a competition? And that time, from coming 7 minutes to coming on 3 minutes, I was like, oh, come on, like competitions, I can easily do it. It's a child's play, come on. And then I walk into the room and I look at so many speed cube. I thought it must be 5, 7, 8 people. There are hundreds of people out there. And I'm like, shit, I was not knowing about this entire dimension existing.
Hmm.
So I walk in pretty nervous and I gave my shot. I solved Rubik's Cube, not very good scores out there. Because at that time, you're even more nervous when you're sitting on the table. There is a
Hmm.
speed cubing clock that you get, the timer. The way it goes is you have to place your hands, you have to wait for that red light to blink, then the green light. Once it is green, you can lift your hands, solve the cubes, keep the cube down, and stop the timer. This is the process.
Hmm.
But at that time, you're panicking over all stupid things that, oh, what if the green light doesn't blink? What if I keep it for too long? What if I get a penalty? All stupid thoughts would come on that day only. And that is the time when I actually solved my pyramids in 6 seconds. Okay. And
Hmm.
now my average would have been 12, 13 seconds at that time for pyramids. And solving it 6 seconds, I was like, wow, this is my favorite puzzle. I want to practice solving this more. And I
Hmm.
think that is the day from where I thought to myself that pyramids is what I want to show it to the world, that this exists and this is a super amazing puzzle, just like the Rubik's Cube.
Oh, so that was the aha moment for pyramids because that is where your love
Yes,
for pyramids was
yeah,
born.
because I got a good solve, and it was a solve wherein you have step one, step two, step three, step four. Okay, after three steps, the fourth step did not arise only. Luckily, it was solved in that step. There is one case where you do not have to do anything. I got the
Correct.
lucky move. I'm like, wow, 6 seconds? Come on, guys, I'm a genius. And that time, it is 2060, 2070, different time. I'm like, oh wow, this is super cool. And then after attending 4 or 5 competitions, I was like, no, no, no. That was just a lucky solve. I need to practice way harder.
And now what is your fastest that you've done the pyramids in?
Officially for the
Hmm.
pyramids, it is 4 seconds. 4 seconds
Hmm.
is my official one. Unofficial is 2.8 seconds. That is while
Hmm.
practicing. So there
Right.
are multiple websites that exist which give you which generate a scramble for you. Looking at the
Hmm.
scramble, you replicate it. Once it is ready, you put the timer on and solve it. So I'm still
Okay.
trying to get under 4 seconds for an official competition. Have not been so lucky
Hmm.
yet. But
Hmm.
my average time, which was 12 to 15 seconds, has come to 7 seconds.
Amazing.
So
Amazing. So your that time ka best has now become your normal.
my average, yes, that is
Yeah,
like
average.
including all the worst solves, that would be the average.
And now when you enter a competition, how do you feel?
Oh, just like the day I felt on the very first day of Rubik's Cube solving. Every time you enter, there are more and more number of participants. It's like, oh, last time there were 50 less than this. What is happening around? The registrations get over so quick that
Hmm.
you're like, how are they? There are so many participants in Rubik's Cube, and you'll see most of them are super young. Like there is competition between 4 4 year old kids also. Like who's the fastest? And I'm like, at that age, I had no clue what Rubik's Cube is. I had never, I think, even touched a Rubik's Cube. So that is just amazing.
Chinmay, tell me about your daily routine. How do you make this a practice that you do every single day? Because this is something that I know many people will be struggling with, saying that, oh, I will do this for
Mhm.
like 3 days, but then on the fourth day I'll forget and I might not
Hmm.
actually end up doing this. So, how do you make it a
Hmm.
routine?
Uh, See, one thing I'm very scared of is losing what I have in hand. Very scared,
Hmm.
because I know how much I've struggled to get to that position where I could have the certificate in my hand with written that India on it. So I'm very scared of losing things from my hand. So in order to be away from the thought of losing something, I keep practicing every single day. I am very scared of unhappiness. Like, one single day I am very unhappy, I'll be the most scared person. Like, that is not what Chinmay is. I just want to be
Hmm.
that person who's very happy in life. Because when you're happy, everything around you feels normal. When you're not in a good mood, say anything good happens to you, you will just take it up as something bad that has happened. So I want to be happy, and to remain happy, I'm like, okay, if I don't want to lose what I have in hand and I don't want unhappiness in any sort of kind, I have to keep practicing.
Hmm.
Now I work as a cybersecurity executive as well. So throughout the day, my job starts at 9 o'clock. It ends at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And by after that, I have my friends whom I have to meet. I have my daily routine to follow, maybe some meets to go at. But then when it is my bedtime, I make sure, like, they say that before going to bed, at least 1 hour prior to it, do not look at any digital devices.
Hmm.
It's better for your eyes. Do not have, and I'm not somebody who will just quickly sleep when the television is off. So now, since I do not have my phone around me or my television is off, the best way I can pass the time is by solving these puzzles over and over again. So it need not be that I'm putting a timer and constantly like, oh, this is 3 seconds better or 4 seconds worse. The important thing is doing it every single day without a stop. I do not remember the last day when I did not solve a Rubik's Cube before going to bed.
Oh, it's almost become an everyday routine now.
It's a everyday routine now.
Hmm.
I sometimes fear, if I don't have the Rubik's Cube, I might not even sleep that night. It's
Hmm.
that stuck in my head now.
So you would have Rubik's cubes everywhere. You would have it in your bag permanently with you wherever you're going. There'll always be a cube with you.
Yeah, yeah.
What are
Always
the cool
surprised.
cubes that you have?
For example, I have a panda cube. Okay, it's
Hmm.
like a 2 by 2 variant, but it looks like a panda. So usually when it is there in my home, it's at the on the table. Nobody even thinks that it's a puzzle, it's a cube. And then I'm like, guess what? And then I would just scramble it up. And they're like, is everything in your home just a cube? So,
Interesting. So there are
so
different shapes like that also that exist.
yeah, yeah, like this particular shapes, you would not have it for competitions. You're not allowed to take this, like, solve it for competitions. But it looks good when you have a collection of puzzles, like on the rack when you're keeping it. It just feels nice.
But you won't have algorithms on how to solve that, right? Would someone have actually put up algorithms on how to solve that one?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah. Like, for
hmm,
example, there is an algorithm on how to solve a 2 by 2 Rubik's cube. That is
hmm,
the smaller version of Rubik's cube. Now
hmm,
the same algorithms are on the cube that is shaped like a panda. It is basically that external shape is different, but the
hmm.
internal, that core is the same.
Ah,
So instead of pillars, you would be like, oh, this is the eye and the ear and the front part. So it would go to the top right, and then you would
hmm.
start with your algorithms. So
Okay. So that's how you have to
it's
think about it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, is there a challenge that you're currently practicing for?
Yes,
Hmm,
like, there is one record which I do not even mind disclosing at this moment, because I know nobody in this world can do this at the moment. Okay, and I'll tell you the reason why nobody can. I was in Romania's Got Talent a while back. Okay,
hmm,
they wanted somebody on their platform who could solve Rubik's Cube underwater, and the audience wanted to see that. So I was called, and while performing, I met a bubbleologist on the show, and she was very amazing with those bubbles. She used to make like giant human-sized bubbles, and she's been pursuing that for ages now. And we were sitting backstage, and she's like, Chinmay, how about you make a bubble, a soap bubble, and you solve a Rubik's Cube inside it? I'm like, the bubble would burst. She's like, no, it wouldn't. I'll tell you how to do it. I am a bubbleologist. I've been doing it for a while. I'll tell you how to do it.
hmm,
So backstage we discussed a lot, and then I came home. A year or so passed, and I did not pay so much attention. Then I was,
Hmm.
and recently I had my Guinness World Record for skydiving. That is when she
Hmm.
contacted me. She's like, Chinmay, you're doing so amazing records. Why not the one we discussed about? And that was like, shit, how did I miss that? That is another different aspect. So I tried making those bubble liquid with all those
Hmm.
YouTube videos that you have, putting
Hmm.
dishwash liquid, putting this, putting that. Nothing worked out. So I contacted her. I said, Chinmay, there are some ingredients like X, Y, Z. And I'm like, oh, okay. She told me what proportion to put it at. And guess what? I can now
Hmm.
actually solve a puzzle inside the bubble without bursting it.
Amazing. Wow.
I approached Guinness World Record. I
Hmm.
can easily do it in 45 seconds now. Like 40-45
Hmm.
seconds is the best. And to get
Hmm.
into Guinness World Records, I have to set it to 30 seconds or less.
30 seconds of
So
a
I'm
Rubik cube, not pyramid.
again a Pyraminx.
Pyramid.
So
Hmm.
with Pyraminx, since I hold four Guinness World Records and all with Pyraminx, I want the fifth one also
Hmm.
to be the same. Pyraminx, in fact, is
Hmm.
again more challenging with bubble because the way it is
Hmm.
pointed on all sides.
Oh, it will
It's
burst the bubble.
difficult to push it. Yes. So it is difficult to push it inside the bubble, solve it, and then without bursting the bubble to get it out. So
Hmm.
that is one challenge that I'm
Oh, so
looking at.
you put the pyramid in and pull it out without bursting the bubble. It's not that
So,
you
so I'll
blow the
tell you
bubble
what.
around it. Huh. Huh.
I'll tell you what I do. I'll take a desk. On that, I will
Hmm.
blow a bubble at first. Okay. And the
Hmm.
bubble blowing is also not with like any equipment, with just bare hands. Okay.
Hmm.
I just make a particular sign here, blow it
Hmm.
into a giant bubble. Okay.
Hmm.
Then I push this puzzle inside the bubble without bursting it.
Hmm.
Then I push both my hands into the bubble without bursting it,
Hmm.
solve it, and then remove my hands carefully without bursting the bubble. Once my hands are out for the next 5 seconds, the bubble shouldn't burst.
Hmm.
Now, right from the time when I'm trying to blow that liquid and make a bubble out of it, the timer gets started right there. So this
Hmm.
entire process is taking 45 seconds. The Guinness World Records wants this entire to be 30 seconds. If it is under 30 seconds, that would be one record that is not going to be beatable so quick.
Wow. Okay, so 15 seconds need to be only in the prep process. So blowing the bubble,
Yes,
putting hands in, putting cube in, all of that is 15 seconds, and then solving it is
correct,
30 seconds.
correct. No.
No, no, and then putting
Prep
hands
is
out
15,
also. Huh.
prepping it is 15 seconds.
Hmm.
Solving it is say 13 seconds, and 2 seconds is
Hmm.
pulling hand out. The entire thing has to be 30 seconds.
Correct. Okay. 15 seconds. Huh.
Uh,
Wow.
so to, so that is what I'm practicing for now. Like
Hmm.
before
Got
going to
got
bed
even
this
one
day,
so far?
I have performed at a show. I
Hmm.
was called as a guest for one of the talent shows. Okay,
Hmm.
and that is the first time when I have full crowd sitting there waiting, and it's pin drop silence everywhere. Okay, and now at this point, I am more nervous. My hands are freezing cold, and I'm just rubbing
Hmm.
my hands to like, come on, Chidvik, be patient. And that is the day when I performed on stage for the very first time with this bubble act. And I
Hmm.
did it in front of the audience, and the entire audience, I could hear them going, shh, shh. Everyone is just calming people down. They're making noises. Nobody says anything. And I solved it in front of the audience without bursting the bubbles. I got my hands out, and the host, the anchor of the
Hmm.
show, is like, "Hum jeet gaye," and everybody is just standing, clapping, and everything. They're going wild everywhere. So
What
what
a
a day it
feeling,
was.
huh?
Yeah, and that is
What
the
a
day I was
feeling.
like, oh, this has to go to Guinness World Records. We are not stopping that practice. Nobody can do it in
Hmm.
the world. Let's just be best at something.
Amazing. So how many Guinness Book of this is your fifth one. So the
This
first one
would be
was
my fifth one.
underwater.
Yeah.
This would be your fifth one.
Second,
So first one was underwater, second was cycling, then
then
skydiving.
no, actually, before skydiving, I
Hmm.
got a call from a corporate show. Okay,
Hmm.
and they wanted me to go for the show, give a motivational talk, and maybe perform for their employees. So again, they built a tank and everything. They're like, we
Hmm.
would love to see a Guinness World Record performing for us. And
Hmm.
over there, I was supposed to perform on Sunday.
Hmm.
Okay. And I reached there Saturday morning, and he's like, Chinmay, your briefing will be at so and so time and this and that. And I went to the meeting room. I spoke to them. I'm like, will you be giving me a call back anytime now? They're like, no, the day is yours. I'm like, perfect. Thank you.
Hmm.
I call up a bungee jumping place in Goa.
Hmm.
And I'm like, see, I have an idea of solving the pyramids while hanging upside down in a bungee jump.
Hmm.
And he's like, Chinmay, maybe have you done bungee jumping before? And I
Hmm.
was like, no, I haven't. He's like, what? Do one thing. No, come, try bungee jumping once. See how that thing is. Maybe try one more time. Then when you come to Goa some other day, you can try this. I'm like, no, please, please. Like at my risk, let me do it. Worst case, it won't happen. I'm ready to accept that. He said, okay,
Hmm.
Chinmay, but we are closing at 6 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, I am on my way. I went out,
Hmm.
rented an Activa, put
Hmm.
Google Maps, went to the bungee site, which was pretty far. Okay, and reached at around 5:15. And I'm like, okay, the lighting is going dim a little. I have to be fast. And there is like, Chinmay, there is one form, consent form. I'm like, sign, sign. I am pretty okay with whatever we are doing. And I was not scared until the time we sat into that lift that they call it, that they
Hmm.
take you up. Okay, so I'm sitting, and the manager in charge was so excited. He himself came and sat with me. Hey, even I would love to see this. And
Huh.
while going on top, no, the height became too much, and we are still
Hmm.
like way to go. I was like, is this safe? Like, are you? It's safe, right? And this guy's like, until now it was safe. Yours, we don't know. If it is safe, we will say it is safe. And I'm like, what? So I was even more
And
scared
next day
now.
motivation speech. This should be part of the
Huh?
motivation.
So I
Huh.
went up, and I was standing out there on the very edge of it. I'm like, bad, bad thought. Chinmay and impromptu ideas should not have happened. So so he scrambled a puzzle as per the guidelines and everything. That the guidelines have been there from the cycling and the underwater one. So I knew what the guidelines are. And I won't look. You scramble it with the help of camera in such a way, and you pack it into a box with a
Hmm.
lid. He did that. I'm standing on the edge. He like, 3, 2, 1, go. I do bungee. Once I'm upside down, I while upside down, I open the box, take out the puzzle, and ended up solving it in 7 seconds.
Hmm.
Okay, and it's not even like I'm missing out on a step or I'm lucky. Just that I think my heartbeat was at such a level. I was insanely fast at it. I solved it in 7 seconds, and then I was like, okay, hopefully this should be a valid attempt. And I asked Guinness World Records, and they're like, yeah, the current record is there, and it is for 15 seconds. I'm like, okay, I am uploading my evidences, and I got approved as the third Guinness World Record for solving the pyramids in the fastest time while being upside down. Next day
Wow, that
motivation.
is like,
Yeah,
sorry, but like that was a
yeah,
fantastic impromptu Guinness Book of World Record that
yeah.
happened, huh?
Then I came home, uploaded all those evidences, and next week I had already planned my skydive.
Hmm.
Skydive also, so many consequences I had to face because I wanted to do it in India. Okay, and there are two places in India where it happens.
Hmm.
First guy told that everything is ready, this is done, that is done. We set the dates, we did financial arrangements, everything is sorted. And Guinness World Records does take care that everything is safe for you. So they're like,
Hmm.
we will need the safety license, we will need this license, that license from the club. And apparently, he did not have any of those licenses. I don't know how it was running. He's like, no, no, this is safe. I'm like, I need to upload. He's like, no, I don't have that right now. It is in other state. My
Hmm.
hometown is different place. I work here. I'm like, somebody must be having it. He's like, no, I'm the only person who does this, conducts this. I'm like, okay. So I started
Bye
looking
bye.
for other place. Huh.
Hmm.
So I started looking for other place. The other place, I don't know if they were just angry that day, something went wrong, or was it a real thing? But he said, Chinmay, our pilot left the job.
Like,
What will I do with the plane? Just where will I jump? I'm like, such a bad time. Then I call up a place in Dubai. Okay.
hmm.
And they're like, Chinmay, firstly, I could not connect with them. They're like, no, no, only phone calls, no WhatsApp calls. So
Hmm.
I call them and I'm talking to them. And firstly, I don't know. This guy's like, what do you want to do exactly? So I said, I will be
Hmm.
jumping out of a plane. Okay.
Hmm.
And then somebody will have to come midair. As per the guidelines, somebody had to come midair, hand you over the cube, then you start solving. He's
Hmm.
like, Chinmay, we are not allowing anybody to even wear a ring in their finger while jumping.
Hmm.
You're talking about a pyramids, a triangular puzzle.
Hmm.
If it falls on somebody's head, you have any clue what will happen? And I'm like, I will make sure it does it. Like, Chinmay, no, not happening, Chinmay, sorry. And he just
Hmm.
disconnected the line.
Huh.
And I'm like, shit, I just wasted so much of my money in that international call for no reason. And then came just a sleepless night to what to do now. My dream is not going to be happening or whatever. Then I get in touch with one place in Bangkok. I'm like, okay, And same
Hmm.
reason, they're like, no, we can't allow you to jump with anything in your hand. Then out of nowhere, I am just looking at the map where you have those pins for whatever skydiving places in the world there are. Okay, now I don't have a budget to go to Spain and all. So
Hmm.
I look for Pattaya. I call them
Hmm.
and they're like, yeah, we will do it. Okay.
Hmm.
I explained it to them very clearly. And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We understood. Come, come.
Hmm.
So I went over there, and the lady who was there at the reception, I'm like, see, what I want to do is pass the queue. She's like, no, no, we cannot. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I've traveled all the way from India over here, and I had a confirmation. I said, what confirmation? So I showed her WhatsApp messages. Probably, I think they did not understand what I was trying to say, and they
Hmm.
just said yes to everything that I was asking on WhatsApp.
Hmm.
I am like, can we do it? So it took us 4 hours to do the prep. We're just
Hmm.
sitting there. There is an internal meeting going on to should we allow, should we not. But then they were like, we are doing it on a water body, and we will allow, but do one thing, you will get only one attempt. If it
Hmm.
falls, doesn't fall, you solve it, you do not solve it, no second attempt.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, now I've come so far, and you've given me one attempt. That is also very precious for me.
Hmm.
Again, while going, I'm like super bindas ki, Arey, this is super easy, I will get to it. I sat into that airplane, and the speed that it took off, it's not a regular plane. It's a different speed. And I'm like, okay, this is too much. And there is a door on the right which is open throughout. Okay. So I'm
Hmm.
not looking
Hmm.
at it. It's like, okay, not such a distance. And I'm sitting on the left hand side of the aircraft.
Hmm.
When we reached the altitude, people started to jump off. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
a bit scared.
It's very real now.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is not like the movie. This is like, you get a different feel. He made it even worse. He opened the door where I was sitting. I'm like, shit, what if I fall out right now? And
Oh
then I was
God.
like, see, this puzzle will have to be passed and this and that. So we took the jump. And when I took the jump, at that moment, no, in that first 3 seconds, I realized, this is easy. Because you feel it is not like bungee. Like for bungee, no, the speed is different. Here, the speed is
Hmm.
constant.
Hmm.
So you feel like you're just flying. It's not like you're falling, just the
Hmm.
feeling that you're flying. So
Hmm.
this other person comes to pass me that cube, and when I tried to hold it, I was unable to, and
Hmm.
he just went by. He came back second time, I couldn't grab it. The third time
Hmm.
he came around, I grabbed it, started solving it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now I had never practiced for skydiving, no. So not at any point in my life did I think that because of wind, the cube is going to move like this.
Oh God. You'll have to see
So,
this on YouTube to see what Chinmay just did. Basically, the
so,
wind was
so
pushing the cube around.
yeah, yeah. So like I used to do like, okay, step one, step two. Oh, we are back to step zero. Step one, back to step zero. And I
Shit.
have to do this before the parachute opens, and I have 30 seconds of time limit that was provided by Guinness. If you look at the video, I'm holding the cube like this and solving it like this, I'm
Hmm.
turning it.
Hmm.
And at that very second, when the parachute was about to open, milliseconds
Hmm.
before that, I'm like, okay, done. And he opens the
Hmm.
parachute, and we stop. And
Hmm.
then we went down and still worried because we did not know how much time it has taken. So
Hmm.
then they process the video, they get it out. Like Guinness wants the unedited clip and everything.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they checked everything along with stopwatch and everything, and it came out to be 24.22 seconds. I'm
Wow.
like, okay, nice. I sent it to Guinness World Records, and Guinness World Records, I don't know what happiness they had after looking at my videos. When they take 3 months to check all this, they did it in just 5 working days. On the very sixth day, I had an email saying, Chinmay, your record is approved. And the record is approved before the bungee is approved. It is still in process. I'm like, this is crazy.
Amazing.
But over the years, I think I've pushed myself so bad that any thought is not a bad thought now. I'm ready to accept anything that comes with my mind.
This is such a great point, huh? This, like, any thought that comes now, how can I do this?
Yeah,
Also, you
yeah.
must be knowing all the people at Guinness Book of World Records by first name now, na? So, like, Are, how are you? Everyone knows you there at this point of
Well,
time.
for example, after the first world record was done, no, it went so viral that Guinness World Record had asked if I could send somebody that I sign it, saying the cubes that I used and the T-shirt I used and the swimming goggles and everything. So my T-shirt, cubes, and goggles, I signed it, and And recently, like 2 months back, I got an email from Guinness World Records that it is now on display in their London headquarters. So
Wow.
yeah, so that itself was an achievement. Like, oh, nice.
Amazing.
I,
This is
I,
such a
I
great way of creating publicity for the sport and moving things
yeah,
forward. It's a
yeah.
amazing job that you're doing. Tell me something, when you're going through all of this, how do you
Hmm.
motivate the next generation? How do you tell the next generation to continue what you're doing and, you know, find all of this exciting in that way, saying that, oh, I also want to become a speed cuber? What is that one thing that you want to leave people behind with at this conversation?
Um, One thought that I want to leave everyone behind with
Hmm.
is speed cubing is a sport, okay, but it's not limited to one Rubik's cube.
Hmm.
Also, it's just not that you're solving it by, say, you go into a competition, you solve it, and it's done. No, it's beyond that. It's a different dimension when you open your creativity.
Hmm.
For instance, this bungee jump idea or a skydive idea, tomorrow somebody will get some random idea, and maybe that would be something that is out of the box. Somebody can never even think, and you'd be the best one. Leave the best one, you would be the first one to do it. Everyone remembers who does something for the very first time. Everyone remembers who steps on the moon for the very first time. So it's always nice to be the first one. Open your doors to creativity. Flow as water. Go in every direction. Don't leave anything untouched, unexplored. Give everything a shot and then choose what your passion is and the direction you want to follow.
Amazing. Chinmay, thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us on the podcast. I've had a blast listening to the stories and the way that you're pushing this sport forwards. Thank you so much for
Uh-huh.
joining.
Thank you for having me here.
If you like this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, give us a rating. It really helps with people discovering the podcast. If you like podcasts like this, check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can also watch all the episodes on the Habit Coach Awesome 180 YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can also reach out to me. I am Ashdin Doc at Twitter and Instagram. You can connect with me on my website, awesome180.com. You can also check out my 2 new books, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, and the second, The Book of Good Habits for Kids. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach.
IVM.